What's going on, guys? It's Cal here from Buffalo SportsCenter. Today we're going to be discussing the Buffalo Sabres and just a plethora of things during this early offseason. Again, the NHL playoffs are still going on. We're almost to the Stanley Cup final, but some things have already happened in Sabres land. We've already talked about Lindy Ruff being hired as the coach, so let's just get into this video. So first things first, let's talk about the Worlds. Let's talk about the tournament that just occurred. A lot of Sabres players were in action for different countries. And the big name that we have to talk about is Dylan Cozens. Dylan Cozens, I mean, no doubt about it, had an off year last season with the Sabres. Definitely a disappointment in my eyes. Still had some bright moments, but again, he didn't have his line that he had the season before with Peterka and Quinn, mainly because Quinn was injured for majority of the season. And let's just say Dylan Cozens didn't look that great. But in this tournament, oh my, Dylan Cozens learned how to score goals again. 9 goals in 10 games, 2 assists, so 11 points. I mean, he was one of the best players on Team Canada, and 9 goals is very impressive, almost averaging a goal a game. If we could see that version of Dylan Cozens next season on the Sabres, oh boy, we are in for a treat, especially if they put that line together, the kid line, with him, Peterka, and Quinn. Dahlin, Peterka, Bowen Byram, and Owen Power also looked very good in this tournament. Again, some mistakes here and there, but overall, I think all those guys and pretty much everyone who represented the Sabres looked very good in this tournament. So no worries there. I thought this tournament was a success. Again, going into this, I was just hoping nobody got injured. And I think the biggest spot and the biggest bright spot for this team is that Dylan Cozens looks like he learned how to play competitive hockey again, which is great. Hopefully he can bring that success into next season with the Sabres. Now let's move on to another guy who competed at this tournament, Victor Olofsson. Now, it is well known by now that Victor Olofsson is going to test free agency. Now, we've heard this one before. The Sabres have brought him back. We've thought about this for multiple seasons now of the Sabres possibly trading Olofsson. Now the Sabres have the easiest out they're going to get. They just don't have to re-sign him, and Olofsson can walk. What do we think about Victor Olofsson, right? Let me know in the comments, because I know a lot of people are very split on him. I think a majority of the people think he definitely has to leave to find some success with his game. I just don't think the Sabres are the right fit for him. I think Olofsson is pretty much a one-trick pony. You know, he scores goals. He has a good shot. He's good on the power play, but his defense is very lacking, and overall his just team play is not great. He doesn't bring what it needs, for the Sabres team. The Sabres team is not good enough to have just a one-trick pony like Victor Olofsson. But I think if a team like Tampa Bay, maybe one of the top teams in the league like Boston, maybe a team out west like Edmonton gets him and pairs him with a stud like Connor McDavid, of course he's going to have some success. So I think Victor Olofsson is a very, very important aspect and part to a very good team. But the Sabres, a team that, needs some role players, just cannot use a guy like Victor Olofsson that only can contribute in one area of the game. So I personally think the Sabres should do what pretty much everyone is expecting them to do and let him walk. But we will see. Another guy that wants to test free agency is Buffalo lifelong hockey player Zemgus Girgensons. I mean, he has been here since the beginning of this drought, right? I mean, every single year of this drought, we have been gifted with Zemgus Girgensons. And again, I like Zemgus Girgensons as a person, as a hockey player. I've had, some ups and downs with him, but overall, I think it's time for him to get out of here. It's the end of an era for Zemgus Girgensons, and Zemgus, he has aspects of his game I like, right? He's kind of tough. He has that speed on that fourth line, but again, I just don't think he uses physicality enough here in Buffalo. He doesn't score enough goals to not use that physicality, and overall, he's a very replaceable player on the fourth line. The only thing, maybe wanting him back would be nostalgia purposes, but I think it's time for the Sabres to leave Olofsson and Zemgus Girgensons in the past and bring in some new faces in this offseason. So now we bring in the possible trade targets for the Sabres. Now, I'm going to mention 2 names here. Again, there's plenty of names. This is going to go on and on and on. And again, we're not even done with the playoffs yet, so there's still plenty of time for the Sabres to get some of these guys. Let's talk about Nikolaj Ehlers, though. Ehlers is a guy that I've wanted on the Sabres for a long, long time. Again, Winnipeg and Buffalo, they always get paired in these trade talks. Kyle Connor was a big name. Patrick Laine was a big name when he was with the Jets a while ago to maybe come to Buffalo. Ehlers might actually be a realistic option, though. Now, again, it's going to take a hefty package from the Sabres, but there is one good thing with the Sabres. They haven't made the playoffs in, 13 years? But over that 13 years, they put together quite the prospect and draft pool. And, they definitely have the things to trade for one of these guys, one of these big name guys like Ehlers. So it's going to take a hefty package. And this is also a risky move because Ehlers is going into a contract year. But the Sabres could also use that as their advantage there and, kind of negotiate with the Jets, saying he's probably going to leave you guys after next season anyway. We'll give you a little bit here, and the Sabres would get a really, really good player to help them next season. And the Sabres also have a good amount of cap space if they wanted to re-sign him as well. Then let's transition into Kevin Hayes, another name that's been floating around, possibly going to Buffalo for a couple of years now. Kevin Hayes, he's getting older. He's a veteran. He signed at around $3.5 million through the 2025-2026 season. So the Sabres would have him for a couple of years if they go out and get him. But again, the thing is, Kevin Adams has been very stingy about not trading his prospects. Again, the Sabres have way too many prospects. They can't even all fit on the Amerks at this point. And unfortunately, guys like Jiri Kulich, who, all of a sudden we thought going into last season he was going to be a top player on the Sabres, he had a really rough year with the Amerks, and a lot of these prospects are kind of fizzling out. Now, that's not to say Kulich is not a good player at all. I'm just using him as an example. I think he's going to be great. I think he has a bounce-back year. But it's proof that the Sabres have too many prospects, and these prospects are unproven. You cannot rely on prospects, especially in a boomer-bust year for the Sabres, where I know we've been saying this for a while, but this year it is actually playoffs or bust. So you got to go out, you got to not make the same mistake as last offseason and get some big names in the offseason. You certainly have the prospects to do it. You certainly have the draft picks to do it. Get it done. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and potentially getting a big contract this offseason. Now, again, Kevin Adams has been very true to his guys. He signed a lot of these core players to big long-term deals. Again, possibly saving money down the road, but also making a risky move in the present, banking on some of these guys who haven't really proved themselves in Buffalo, but who have stayed loyal. And UPL is a guy just like that. He's been here for a little bit now. Again, he had his coming out season last season where he just played out of his mind. And unfortunately, if he would have played like that the year before, the Sabres would have been a playoff team. And if the Sabres would have brought their offensive skills that they had the year before in the last season where UPL just stood on his head, they would have been a playoff team, but it just didn't come together. Hopefully this is the year where they could go out, get some talent, have that offensive boom again, and possibly get UPL from last year, if not a better version of UPL. Do I think the Sabres should sign UPL long-term? I think so. I think he's shown enough. Again, with Devin Levi kind of as your second hope, it's not that risky of a move if UPL ends up fanning out. Again, he's not going to get paid huge money, but he'll get paid good money if he gets signed to a longer-term deal. Again, if UPL, fuses out, though, you still have Devin Levi as your backup going into next season, and let me tell you, his potential is unlimited. So if the Sabres could have both of those guys, at the top of their ceilings for years to come, it is going to be a scary goaltending duo. And again, that's not a bad problem to have. If you have two really good goalies, you could always trade one for something else down the road. And I guess I'll bring up this last point just because it seems like he's having so much success this year. Sam Reinhart, he is a free agent after this season. I highly doubt the Panthers are going to shell enough money to bring him back. Maybe they do, but he's just had a career year. Again, he just had that overtime goal the other night to even the series in the Eastern Conference Finals, and I mean, it's just almost disheartening as a Sabres fan. I mean, I like Sam Reinhart, good for him, but again, all of these guys that leave the Sabres have success. You see Jack Eichel go to the Vegas, immediately win a cup. Ryan O'Reilly goes to the Blues, immediately wins a cup. It just seems like that always happens. So good for Sam Reinhart, though, and Okposo, who's over there, and Montour, and Evan Rodriguez, and all the people on the Panthers. By the time this video comes out, I don't know what the playoff situation is going to look like, but it is disheartening. Hopefully it's time that the Sabres can, get some guys of their own and go make a run for themselves. So let me know in the comments what you think, stood out to you in this video. What do you think the Sabres should do in this offseason? We got a lot of time. It's going to be a fun year with Lindy back behind the bench, and I'm excited for this year, but still a long ways to go. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.